So I've been exploring the Speyside Distillery Tamdhu since I came across that sample pack that I grabbed late last year. There were 3 in there. I've reviewed the 12 and the 15-year single malts, but today we are going to wrap up the trifecta Tamdhu ugh, wow, that was pretty bad. Anyway, with their batch strength offering. Batch number 6, take a deep breath. This one's going to be a wee bit hot. This is Whisky. I'm John Chidgey. Always remember to drink responsibly in moderation and where and when appropriate. Feel free to like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, and visit engineer.network/whisky without the E to learn how you can support the show. Thank you. Whilst the Tamdhu website refers to this as a core range, I guess they keep releasing it, but it is undeniably a batch release. So every batch is different, which to my mind is not a core range whiskey, but I suppose definitions on that vary. Take Johnnie Walker for example. They released the Johnnie Walker White Walker for a while. No one buys it because it's terrible. They stopped selling it, and then they say it was a limited release. The White Walker is a unique batch of whiskey with its own specific flavour profile. So how is it any different from Tamdhu releasing a specific batch of whiskey, giving it a number instead of a name, and its flavour profile is just as unique as the White Walker was for Johnnie Walker? The only difference is the branding. Whatever, I'm digressing again, I've got better things to talk about. When you could get a bottle of this, the 700ml version of it anyway, from Dan Murphy's, it went for 160 Australian dollars. Problem is, I can't find any in Australia, but then it's been out of stock for quite a while now, and I mean a while. The current batch is 8, this is a 6, and I can't find that here either. But on the UK website, Tamdhu are selling it for 95 British pounds, which is about 190 Australian at the time of researching this. Mind you, try and import that and another chunk of shipping and import duty later. It'll be cheaper to build your own distillery and just make it yourself, probably. So, back to this one, batch number 6. It has a batch strength level of 56.8% ABV. Ooh, it's not chill filtered because why the heck would you at that ABV, and it also isn't coloured. Winning. So I think we need to quickly touch on cask strength, batch strength, and such. Now this isn't technically a cask strength whiskey. Well, technically, but what is that? When you put whiskey in a cask to mature or to finish, in order to get the optimal solubility of the wood-ingrained sugars and compounds, you generally need to be above 60% ABV. In Scotland, the oddly precise number they go for is 63.5% ABV. That's generally used, but casking can be anywhere from 50% to 70% or so. Bourbon cannot be any higher than 62.5% ABV when it's put in its cask, but it's in the same ballpark. As the whiskey ages, it will naturally evaporate some of the lighter liquids from inside the barrel as the barrel wood breathes. So to speak, it breathes. And this leads to evaporative losses that they like to call the angel's share or angel tax. This impacts the concentration of the alcohol in the cask, and that'll ultimately diminish over time, with an average figure often quoted as being a loss of about 0.5% per year for maturation. That varies all around the world though. And for example, therefore, a 12-year single malt in a single cask that went in at 63.5% will come out at 57.5% ABV or thereabouts after 12 years. So when a distillery just bottles straight from the cask, no dilution, no ABV adjustment, it's genuinely cask strength at whatever ABV that it landed at. Now batch strength, which is what this is, isn't that at all. Rather, the distillery will take multiple barrels, mix and blend them together into a batch that meets a flavour profile that they're after, and whatever the ABV is in that ultimate batch of whiskey will be the batch strength. Funny thing for me is that technically you could argue that the classic latte, sitting at 50.5% ABV, is in effect a batch, and yet it's not called batch strength. Brook Latte make no claims of consistency between their batches of the classic latte either, but they will adjust the ABV to meet their target profile as well as the flavour profile to some extent, so I prefer to think that whilst you could call every whiskey out there a batch strength, if it comes from more than one cask, the expression is used generally to denote that the ABV wasn't adjusted in a significant way when creating the batch. Fair enough, I guess. In terms of whiskies I've personally tasted, the highest ABV whiskey I've tried to date was a Scotch Malt Whisky Society, the SMWS bottling, 137.15, St George's Distillery at 66.7% ABV. That was a teeny bit hot. In terms of reviews on this show to date, the highest I've reviewed is 50.5%, the aforementioned La Classic Luddy. So at 56.8%, this is going to be on the hotter side, for sure. Now on their website, Tamdhu talk a bit about what makes their batch Strength 6 release different, though I suspect it's a similar story for other batches. They say each cask is meticulously hand-selected to create this one-of-a-kind release. A high proportion of these casks are first fill. The deep copper hue is developed by the cask, nothing more, and each drop owes its rich, complex taste to its Oloroso cask home. Well, it was its home until you broke it out of its cask and you poured it into a bottle. But yeah, I suppose it was, for a while. That's great. They wrap it up saying it is a magnificent Speyside single malt for the sherry wood connoisseur. Not sure I'd describe myself as a connoisseur of sherry bombs, at least not yet. I mean, I don't mind them, that's for sure. So this should be good. Cherry bomb. I've said that a few times in different episodes, and maybe I'll do that another time. According to Tamdhu, the website of the time at least, specifically said this for the tasting notes for this batch. On the nose, a fresh spiciness of oak, then roasted nuts and warming vanilla. On the palate, summer berry pudding with creme anglaise. A dash of water brings orange, lemon, and even more oak spice. Cinnamon spice swells, revealing a long farewell of citrus zest and ripe figs on the finish. Interesting, and good if it's true. I am very curious what this tastes like. Let's find out. So I'm going to call that like a burnished, kind of a goldish colour. And as for the legs, I'm waiting for them to start. And they are just starting now. Oh, look at them. Lots of little ones. Starting slow and getting quicker. But there's lots and lots of little drops. And that is a good sign. Certainly one that I've come to associate with a nice, creamy Scotch. Whisky, I should say. Nice creamy whiskey. Let's see. There it is again. The sherry, Oloroso sherry, is absolutely striking in this one. Oh, I got in too much. That really burnt. Oh, man, that's strong. Definitely getting oak and vanilla, and my nose buds are frying slightly. All right, let's see if I get some numb tongue after this puppy. Okay, that mouthfeel is delightful. It's very similar. It's similar to the 15, but here's the funny thing. I actually think the 15 has a nicer mouthfeel than this. This is absolutely hotter, and that shouldn't surprise anybody. It's a good 10 and a bit % more ABV than the 15, and honestly, you can taste it. But my tongue is not going numb, not super numb anyway. That is nice. That is very nice. I haven't really had much of an affinity for high ABV cask strength whiskies. I've had a few now, and I think that it's an acquired sensation. I wouldn't say taste, but sensation. It is a delightful mouthfeel, but I still prefer the 15 on the mouthfeel. But what's different about this one is that the sherry is overpowered by that. Like the ABV is draining a bit of that sherryness on the palate. It comes back in the finish though, so it's interesting. Starts strong on the nose, dims out in the palate, comes back in the finish. Very interesting. It's like the sherry roller coaster. It's different, that's for sure. And it's nice. It is quite nice. The more I smell this, the more I can smell roasted nuts too. Almost like a walnut. It's bitterish. It's not like an almond. It's like it's more bitter. So I guess you roast the nuts, they get a bit bitter. Yes, it is a bit of nut sort of smell to it. That is intense. The problem I have with higher ABV whiskies is that they take a little bit too much away from that flavor, and they numb you up just a little bit too much. Now, they reckon you should add water to high ABV whiskies. Now, I've never done this before, but you know what? I'm going to do it this time. I'm actually going to I've been cleansing my palate with this. This is the first time I've ever used this. I actually got myself a Glencairn pipette, not because I thought I'd ever use it, but because I needed to make up the minimum amount to get free shipping. And it was cheaper to get this way than it was to... basically, I got something for this and I got free shipping, so yeah, what the heck. So I don't know if you've ever seen one of these before, but Glencairn pipette. Very cute little thing. Alright, so this is rocket science right here. So I'm just going to... Normally I'd say that's sacrilege, but... Alright, now on the nose I'm getting the sherry, the Oloroso sherry's really dialed back now, and the vanilla is much stronger. Still got the oak. It's still pretty damn strong, but that orange and lemon definitely comes out. That citrus is much more pronounced now at a lower ABV, and this is my issue with it. You know, is it's kind of, ooh, that citrus. That's lemon zest on the finish now. Like, I didn't get that lemon zest on the finish before. It's funny, you know, adding water to a high ABV whiskey. It has it's almost like the whiskey has a multiple personalities. You got to peel it back. It's more whiskey for your whiskey. I mean, honestly, this is pretty damn good, eh? It is pretty damn good. I am enjoying this, but here's what I've got in my head. A, I can't buy this because they don't make it anymore, and batch 8 isn't available in Australia. 2, is this better or not than the 15? I have to admit, it's different. It's different enough, even though it's related, it's different enough from the 15 that I have to say I probably prefer the 15. But I'm getting ahead of myself just a teeny bit. Let's talk about cost. Cost is impossible, really, to sort of like say if it's no longer available, but we'll go with the last known price, 3. It is stretching the budget a bit. But as for the quality, I got to admit, it's not making me giggle anywhere like the 15 did. It's just a little bit too hot. It's distracting, and it doesn't have as nice a mouthfeel. It just doesn't. It's still bloody nice, but I would only give it a 3. It'd be a high 3. It'd be a high 3. But I mean, with a 3 and a 3, you end up as a yellow, which, you know, honestly, it's not. Like, you might have a few bottles in this category. Like, if you really wanted a high ABV, you know, Scotch, this is not bad. Not a bad choice, especially if you like sherry. Honestly, though, it's strong. It's good. Thank you, Tamdhu. This has been fun. Testing those 3. 15 still my favorite. But you know what? This is pretty decent. And with that, cheers. See you next time. Oh, she a bit strong. She be strong.